We're at the huge convention with Brandon Vaughn. And Brandon, you had one of the breakout sessions yesterday, and the title of your talk was
How to Attract and Retain Viciously Loyal and Productive Employees.
Cool. Now, why did you pick why is it important to have viciously loyal employees? Why is it important to have employees that care?
Well, you can't build anything on your own.
Right.
If you want to have, if you have a big dream, if you have a big vision, you have big goals with it, no one can do it on alone.
Right.
No one can do it by themselves.
Right.
And so, one of my favorite quotes is that bold goals pursued by mediocre people will still result in mediocre results.
Right.
You
shared that yesterday. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've got an interesting background. Is your father owned a window cleaning company, or he was a window cleaner for, was it 30 years?
Yeah, about 33 years.
33 years. Mm-hmm. But he always just worked by himself or with a helper, right? He just kept it small. It was just his thing. And then you ended up taking over the company or buying your dad's company. And that was how many years ago?
So I bought the company in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, how many employees do you have and you operate?
I think we're almost up to about 25 right now.
Okay.
With this, and we're hiring at least 2 to 4 more right now.
Right.
People that we need.
Okay. So when you grew up with your dad being a window guy,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you used to work with him when you were a kid.
I was the squeegee. He would actually pay me. He would pay me like 5 cents a screen.
Right.
To wash screens.
Nice.
So I started actually working full time with my dad from the time that I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
Actually 14 years old. So I homeschooled through high school.
Okay.
And then worked 40 hours a week with him at age 14.
Wow.
Washing windows with him, and it was always his business model was always him and a helper.
Yeah.
And I was that helper.
You were the helper for one.
Yeah, for about 14 to about age 19 or so.
And so then did you go to business school, or did you go to college and do stuff, or
no?
Okay.
I graduated from homeschool. And the homeschool course was like, correspondence school. So they just send you the books.
Yeah.
And you read the books and you take the self-checks and then tests and then you send them back. It was like in Illinois, the actual homeschool thing. My parents didn't do anything with that. But when I was done, the day I turned 18, I went out and got my own business license.
Okay.
To start my own window cleaning company.
Really?
And I was going to be the owner-operator guy.
Yeah.
Because that's what my dad did.
Yeah.
And did that for a period of time, and just got why am I in window cleaning still? So I kind of sold off that little business, and then I went out and got a construction company, and decided to get into construction.
Okay.
So I had a construction company, and that was like right about 2007, 2008.
Perfect timing.
Perfect time
to be in building.
Yeah. So I tanked that thing hard. I really tanked it. Work dried up. I was able to sell off the equipment, but I had tax debt left over. I had no health benefits. That was when I had my daughter. So we put my daughter's birth on a credit card.
Wow.
I lost my house. We were on food stamps. I was selling musical instruments to try to pay rent.
Right.
We ended up moving into like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath farmhouse with literally had drop-down ceilings, tile drop-down ceilings throughout the whole thing.
Wow. Yeah.
To cover up all the mold that was growing up above it. We had rats that would be crawling around. No insulation in the floor, hardly any insulation. It was a humbling learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And then actually after that, I got a corporate job. After I did that, forget working for myself. I'm going to go out and do this thing. And went out and got a corporate job for a while doing sales and marketing.
Right.
And learned a lot about business actually through that. Kind of saw, okay, this is how you put together, more of a business side of things.
Right.
And traveled a little bit too much, ended up getting a little bit crazy, and then after that went out and just did my own marketing and graphic design, web design business. And then that was literally in 2011. That's when my dad called me up and said that he had heart disease and that he couldn't work physically anymore.
Right.
And so that's when we sat down and I said, okay, well, here, maybe this is what we can do. What we can do to take care of you and mom, and I'll take your business and see if we can start growing it. So that was that's the Reader's Digest version of the last 15 years of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
The quick version.
Yeah.
So 2012 you take on your dad's business. Mm-hmm. Right. But somewhere along the way, it sounds like maybe it was when you were doing sales and marketing and working a corporate job, but somewhere, having grown up with owner, operator, guy and a helper, and you were that helper you had to have, you went, this needs to be a business. how do was there a certain point where you went, I can see doing this and having crews of people like multiplying our efforts?
So I had the vision. I saw what it could be. Even back then, I didn't really see it at being the size that it is now. I had kind of limiting beliefs as far as how big I could actually grow it. I actually wrote up a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
There was like, okay, in 5 years we'd grow from 100,000 in revenue, and we'd get up to like 400,000 in revenue. I was like, that's pretty good.
You're almost there, right?
We grow to that point. And it was because that's as big as I thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't until August of 2013 that I went to a soft wash-a-palooza that AC Lockyer hosted for soft wash systems. Flew down to California, spent $1,000, and went through this whole educational thing, and it was so much more on the business side of stuff. He introduced me to the E-Myth book, which was a business book that kind of opened my eyes, to work on the business. I saw his company with 30 trucks on the road, and it was just like, wow, this is how I see the vision for my company and where I'd like to see things going, and kind of build it that way. And so that was the point when I really started kind of looking a little bit bigger of, okay, how could I put something together like this so that I could have more time freedom, and not be in the day-to-day operations, like an owner-operator. Well, there's just nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it's just not what I wanted to do, because I also had to take care of my dad.
Right.
So, I couldn't just be an owner-operator and do that. I had to take care of him too.
So I find it fascinating, and I know that generally the difference between being an owner-operator and building and having a dozen trucks or 5 or whatever, it's in your head. I mean, it's mental, and the way you view it, because you even said, my view of it was really small. To go from 100, that's as big as I thought, to go from 100 to 400,000. But I forgot the question I was asking. Do you ever do that?
All the time, man. All the time. Yeah. No. Talking about mindsets.
Well, mindset is the reason, but it evaporated. That's okay. We'll just call it New Orleans. Maybe there's a lack of sleep. Okay, all you film people, we're just going to cut that. I never edit the things out. Like, if you goof up, just keep going.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'll formulate another question. This is actually better. All I can think of, there's a Starbucks sitting across the street. I'm like, maybe I should be drinking coffee.
Right,
I'd be a little more game.
Well, there's so much information that you get at these conventions that my brain absorb so much, to where you almost don't even know, where to go after that point.
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly kind of how it was for me after I left the soft wash-a-palooza. You had so many big things, and you had so many big ideas and so many big visions. But the big lesson that I took away from there is if you go home and you don't implement anything, nothing changes. Nothing changes whatsoever. And so it literally got to the point to where I would write down to the dollar how much my budget was every year for every single line item that I had for the next 4 years of how I have the vision, but now how am I going to get there? And that was probably what I credit one of my biggest things for why we're able to be where we are now, is because you can't just dream about it. You can't just visionize it. You have to actually write down and break them down into a bunch of action steps.
Right. Okay, so with we go from small to large. I find it ironic. I know the reason is the mindset, why you do or do not, basically. But have you found now with you got 25 employees and a much larger operation than you had thought about? Do you work 25 times as hard as you did when you were an owner-operator, one man with a bucket? No, I would say no. Right. You can't. That's one of the great things about the E-Myth is that the E-Myth really talked a lot about, look, if you are going to move from an owner-operator to a larger operation, you have to learn to delegate, you have to learn to give up control, you have to learn to work on your business, not in your business, and it's really, really easy to just get in the business and just kind of be the technician and be the guy that's going through everything, rather than actually getting on the business and actually working on the business systems. Yeah. So it's not necessarily that you're working more, it's just that your role changes. Your role changes. And if you don't change your role into a way that really benefits your company and builds your team up to be able to make some of those other decisions that you used to make and take care of those things you used to make,
and you just kind of do a delegation by abdication, by just throwing them, hey, now you're in charge of this.
Right.
Then you'll suddenly find that you're working way harder than you need to be.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the tricky part, is trying to find that balance between how much do you let go and how much do you stay in control.
Yeah.
So that you can focus on these other parts.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know a handful of guys that, as they grew their companies, like when they were a guy and a helper, and now where they, their company's 10, 15, 20 times bigger, but they actually, instead of working 60 hours a week, they work 10 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe they've decided to slow down their pace, but it doesn't require their direct involvement so much. So 10 times bigger was actually, less than half the work.
Right.
It's not when you're building into that point. I mean, you've got to get over the hump.
To me, I honestly think it comes down to what is the person's goals.
Yeah.
What's their goals? What's their dreams? What's their why? Because there are people whose goals and dreams are to, be a multi-millionaire. They want to build their business because they want to be living the rich life of, whatever, fancy cars, fancy house, fancy
right.
boat, fancy lavish vacations. That's never been my why. My why has always been my family and time.
Mm-hmm.
And, my spiritual pursuits, something, it's so much bigger than business to me. So over the last 4 years, I haven't given myself a raise, even though our business is doing 12 times in revenue, because it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I don't need to be making more money. I'm content with what I have right now. But what I do want is, my goal is, I want to be able to back away from the business and still have it be working,
mm-hmm.
and take my modest salary and build up my team, share the wealth with my team members, share the wealth with all my management staff and everyone else, and make it to where they can really take ownership over it, so that I can just kind of step back and just let the machine run.
Right.
And where they're invested in the machine pays them as well.
Yeah.
And get at that point. And that's always been the vision for my company. And it's actually a vision that I share with my employees as I hire them on too.
Yeah.
I share that.
So is that a big part of your culture, the family and time, like?
Absolutely. Yeah, we get the guys that just come in and they just want to work to death and stuff like that. We really encourage a work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
We hardly work any weekends. We hardly work any nights. I mean, I count on one hand how many times we typically do that over the course of a year.
Yeah.
But it's if someone does have to work, a certain kind of situation, or we're really generous when it comes to giving people time off and letting them take care of stuff that's related to their goals outside of work.
Yeah.
Because that's important. They need
right.
that.
I think it's important. Where do you recall offhand where you got you shared information yesterday about reasons that are what important to the employee they're working somewhere, and money is not in the top 4
right.
of that list. It was time, flexibility, appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
I think appreciation was first, and the list goes down. Where'd you learn that?
So I'm kind of a business study nerd.
Yeah.
So I like reading books and Forbes magazine articles and anything else that I can kind of absorb and soak in. And I can't remember what the exact study was, but it's a common thread over many studies.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at it, it's not just like one study found these results, like a dozen studies find that these
get the same
are the results.
Yeah.
And it's the top 4 reasons are, the first one is either a combination of appreciation, inspiration, or recognition. They're all kind of similar to each other. The second one is a feeling of belonging to a team, or belonging of their work environment. And the third one is a positive working environment. And the fourth one is benefits.
Okay.
So, money's not even on the top 4.
Right.
Money starts falling down, below the list, because people are spending, almost half of their time with their workmates and their colleagues and their place of work. You're sharing it almost equally with your family and your friends outside of, life. So wouldn't you want 40 to 50% of the people you surround yourself with to be positive, appreciative, and maybe inspire you and care about you and want you to achieve your dreams and goals? Isn't that what every employee should want?
Yeah, ultimately, right.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to surround I have the best job in the world because I get to pick exactly who joins my team and who I get to work with. And that's a gift. And that's actually my favorite part about being a business owner is that I get to decide what kind of positive or negative people I bring into my life, clear out the negative people, and just stick with the positive ones. And that's pretty cool. And I think the employees should be able to, be gifted that kind of environment as well.
Yeah, very cool. So thank you
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. I don't want to hog up all the time, but I do have like 27 more questions. Just because, like every time you say something, I'm like, oh, let me ask you about this. What about that? One thing I do want to ask you, when you talk about, is we're real big on culture. Like and when we screen people, we got to find somebody that has the right attitude or the right personality to do what we do. Right. They're willing to learn, whatever, they're coachable, all the things. But then on top of that, when we get down more narrow, then all the criterion I'm looking at, how do they fit with our team? Because if you bring somebody in, they may have the right qualities for the job, but they just, there's like oil and water with a couple of people. So it imbalances your team, right. Even though individually they'd be great.
Right.
But then you put them with, like, pretty soon, after 3 weeks, nobody wants to work with Johnny.
Right.
You're like, why? Johnny's cool. And they're like, I don't know. I just don't like working with him. He's like BO, whatever it is.
Right? BO, yeah.
And then you're like, we got to get rid of Johnny. But do you have, you're big on systems, so do you have, what's your filtering process when you're hiring? You're not looking at somebody that can just fog a mirror.
Right.
There's probably, from your criteria, what are some of your criteria?
We have a really, really extensive interviewing process. So when we go through, we ask, like...
Is it top secret? Can you share something?
Is it top secret?
Yeah.
No, actually, I think I shared the interview at my class in some of our class files. But what it does is it's a long process. It's not one that you want to short. You don't want to rush through something, because you're letting someone into your family. So this isn't a decision you want to rush in. It's like, you got a heartbeat? Yeah. Awesome. Here's a squeegee. Here's a bucket.
Right.
Go through the training course. And so we have probationary periods too, and we are very, very upfront. I'm very upfront with my employees when we go through the interviewing process of all the reasons why I would fire them. Right. And we have that conversation up front. We have all the reasons of how they could advance in the company. We set all of those things up front. And we do reference checks. We actually call the references and talk to them. And we have a specific list of questions that we do. Yeah. And if someone isn't willing to share those references with us, or they're just like all family and friends and they're not willing to share coworkers or previous. One of the best examples of reference screening questions that I got was actually from a police department that called me for one of my ex-employees that wanted to join with the police department. And dude, I was taking notes as this guy was asking me questions, because they were brilliant questions to ask, and it was really like laid back and like, hey, we're not going to share any of this information with you and let you know that this is what you said. Everything's going to be off the record, but this is important for us to know. We want to make sure that it's a good fit. And following that as a system makes a big difference too. There's scripts that you can tie in to asking references to actually get good, genuine questions coming in. And it's been a learning process. It's something that you hone in over the years, and it's worth to pay someone to come in and coach you on some of that stuff, which is what I've done at times. To get help with people that are smarter than me. Yes. Yeah, that's what it all comes down to. Is just those little systems that and sticking to them. Yeah. Yeah, I find that fascinating with the hiring. I mean, our process for long. I was your dad. I'm not your dad. You know that. Dad, is it you? Dad,
son,
you?
But just a guy and a helper, guy and 2 helpers. I got 3 employees, but 0 systems. I mean, 0 hiring systems. Hiring systems like, this is a cool guy. You seem like a guy I'd like to have a beer with. You're hired. Right. That's maybe not ideal. Mm-hmm. We worked with that for a while, but I forget who I was talking to, and they were telling me their interview process, not the screening that leads up to an actual interview. It's like on the interview, they'll have 2 or 3 people interviewing the new prospective hire. Oh, absolutely. And they may do it live in person, or it may be on Skype if they're whatever their remote locations. But they said they'll spend an hour and a half, 2 hours interviewing somebody. And I thought, that's nuts. Never have just one person interview a potential candidate. So we actually have like a 3-step process, where we'll actually have a lead technician on a cruise interview a potential candidate. Yeah. And then we'll do ride-alongs. So before we even hire them, we'll say, hey, how about we just pay you a day to just come along and just sit in the truck and work along with the guys, and we'll pay you for it. So you're going to be our employee. So it's going to be for one day. This is before we actually hire them and extend them an offer letter. Right. And then we have a sheet that our lead technicians fill out that score them and grade them on what their hustle's like, and what this is like, and what how their conversational ability, and if there's if they displayed initiative and things. And
that actually alone helps out with company culture because your employees feel a little empowered. They're like,
invested.
sweet, wow, you care about me, the who comes and works with me. And so we'll get positive reports. We'll get excellent feedback from our technicians. It's just that one thing that you didn't realize that, oh, wow, this guy is horrendously scared of heights. And you wouldn't know that unless you threw up on a ladder before he went out. Yeah. You find out all kinds of really, really good details from having your technicians, your existing employees be part of the interviewing process.
Yeah.
And so we take their feedback, we take the office feedback, and then typically, it's either myself or my manager, my office manager, that makes the final call to hire, based upon all those factors.
I think that's it's not fascinating, but it's brilliant to have in our industry. 'Cause most people are playing small. They're not huge, right? But to get multiple perspectives on a new hire, because usually it's it's like if you're the guy and you're hiring a helper, you ask a few questions and they're like, okay, you're hired. Right. And then you find out a month later if it was a good idea or not, or 6 months later.
Yeah,
we have we call it the working interview. After someone's hired, they have 2 weeks of working interview. So at the end of week 1, we give them all the feedback from week 1. Say, this is what you're doing great. This is what we need to see from you if you're going to stay. And then by the end of week 2, same feedback, and that feedback results in welcome to the team, or it was nice to know you, no hard feelings, but move along. And it at first when we started doing that, it was so frustrating to think, I could spend 2 weeks, I'm wasting 2 weeks to decide if I'm going to hire this guy, but the results have been
it's the best
incredible.
spent 2 weeks you could possibly ever have.
Yeah.
It's better than having someone on for 9 months, or,
right?
6 months, and then realizing that, wow, he's cost me a lot of money over these last years.
Right. You're trying to figure out how to get rid of them.
Right.
All right. I've got more, but we'll wrap it up. So thank you.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
By the way.
You too, Sid.
And thanks for your time.